All right, welcome. So this video is how to heal your brain. So we're just going to be covering the overstimulation trap and how you can balance dopamine, fix mental health, and overall heal your brain from years of damage due to use of social media, TikTok, and anybody who's been on drugs. If you've been using drugs, how you may be able to actually heal and recover the brain and get yourself back to a place where you can work to your fullest capacity, because that is always the end goal. And for those of you who want to learn how to work to your fullest capacity, increase productivity, or just become the best at what you do, I'm creating a program called the Academy of Self-Mastery, and we're currently running early access for the program up until it actually is ready to be launched. So anybody who wants to request early access, you can, and you will get a discounted price for the program. We'll be including courses on topics regarding self-improvement, including routine mastery, habits, mental health, dopamine detoxing, sexual transmutation, fitness and training, diet, and much, much more. So if that's something you guys would be interested in, go ahead and you can click the first link in my description. It'll take you to Instagram. Just send me a DM over there. Say, hey man, I'm looking to get into the program for early access, and I'll get you sorted from there. So when I got on self-improvement, one of the first things that I actually realized, one of the first things I learned about was mental health. And I realized that mental health was probably the most important factor for self-improvement in general, but specifically in my case, why I had spent so long with the bad habits, why I couldn't seem to get on that path, why I couldn't seem to cut the things in my life that were hindering my progress and my growth and actually focus on the things that I believed mattered. There was a level of discomfort and dissatisfaction and almost pain associated with doing the right things, doing the good habits, working out, exercising, training, eating healthy, all these things. And a level of, almost craving for the bad habits, the normal stimulus that most people fall for, right? Social media, I was smoking weed at the time, all of those things, right? So what I learned about was mental health. I realized my mental health was poor, and that is why I was in this place. My mental health had always been poor. I just never knew about it. My entire childhood, I realized that I had terrible mental health. At least not my whole childhood, but from, say, the ages of 11 till about 15, when I discovered mental health was when I was 15. My mental health was pretty rough, right? I went through a lot of things as a kid that carried into me when I was, turning 11, and from that point till when I was 15, so about 4 years of my life, I had really poor mental health, right? And I just realized I was very depressed at the time, but I didn't know what depression was. So I just thought this was the type of person I was or something. I just thought there was, I thought it was just part of life to always feel like shit. And I didn't realize that there was a way to fix it or change it until I turned 15. And when I was 15, I was trying to become a professional snowboarder, and I was training and I was working on developing myself, and I wanted to become the best that I possibly could. So I was looking for all of these different tactics and tricks and ways to give myself an edge, right? And one of the things that I found was mental health, right? Healing my mind, healing my thoughts, it just completely transformed my life. By implementing what I had learned about mental health, completely transformed everything, right? And, my thoughts were always negative about myself. My thoughts were always against me. And, the overall state of my mind was just lesser. It was more depressing than anything else, right? And so the way that I fixed this was realizing two things, right? Dopamine was the main issue, the main reason why I always felt like shit. And because I always felt like shit, I didn't want to do anything, right? And the other thing was that I had created a mental habit of just being negative, right? And so changing these two things changed everything for me. And then if you want to talk about the physical health of your brain, not just the condition of your thoughts or the condition of your mind, just being more positive, right? Being more focused on growth overall will help you to heal these certain aspects of your brain, because if you are focused on growth, if you are focused on adaptation, your brain will be able to adapt. It will be able to grow. But yeah, so this video is mainly going to cover when we're talking about overstimulation, how to heal your brain from overstimulation. If we're talking physically or medically, can't really get into that in this video, but I will absolutely get into the physical aspects. But this is more about psychological healing for your brain. First thing is the overstimulation trap. All right. So dopamine desensitization is the result of instant gratification over a long period of time. What dopamine desensitization is it basically means you have you've released large amounts of dopamine so often that your brain has now downregulated the sensitivity of your dopamine receptors because it's essentially just too much, right? The result of this is that when you go to do normal activities like work or like exercise and training, you now no longer get enough stimulation from those activities to stay engaged. And so you lose interest, you become bored, you become lost in thoughts as a result of this. And so what happens is you basically are now in a state where the only things that seem fun or enjoyable are the bad habits that got you here. And this is the overstimulation. Jesus, I haven't said that in like a year. I accidentally said that in like 3 of my videos a year ago. Overstimulation is not a word, just so you know. But this is what the overstimulation trap is it's basically this condition of your brain to be craving and addicted to the things that wire it to be addicted to those things, right? So the things causing your brain to no longer have the dopamine required for harder tasks are the very things that you are now addicted to and crave as a result of this state of dopamine. Right? Having an instant gratification mind state versus a delayed gratification mind state. And so the next thing is you get used to comfort. When you're in here long enough, you get used to the comfort. You get comfortable in it. And once you're used to it, it's a conditioned habit, right? Your mind conditions you into this habit and you stay here. And with comfort comes stagnancy, right? The way to break out of the trap, right? The way to escape this trap and break free from it is to stop giving into the instant gratification activities, is to stop giving into those and start doing more of the delayed gratification activities. Start moving more, start being more active, start getting after it. And the specific like details for how you can actually do that, how you can actually remove the instant gratification, is every moment when you realize that you are giving into one of these instant gratification activities, just redirect yourself. Right? Just redirect yourself by focusing on something else. Every time you realize that you're about to go scroll on TikTok, well, if you have books in your house, try and pick up a book instead. Or if you don't go on TikTok and go on YouTube instead and watch longer form videos like this one. And obviously I think we just passed 100 videos on the channel. So I have over 100 videos on my channel, all of which are this long-form educational content style. And there are many YouTubers out there that you can find that do a similar content style. You just have to be willing to look, and you have to be willing to stop giving into the instant stimulation that comes with the brain rot, all right? And so the other thing is, if you get moving, if you get exercising, that is a good way to break out of this mind state. So balancing dopamine. We've already talked about instant and delayed gratification, but the importance of it here is that when we are focused on instant gratification, we are focused on what gives us the most pleasure right now. When we focus on delayed gratification, we focus on what will give us the biggest and best reward in the future. So we're not so worried about what's going to happen right now, how it feels right now. We're worried about building up and stacking up rewards for the future, right? And this is things like exercise, things like working on a business. All of this is so that we can build up wins now that will benefit us with the results in the future, right? The results of the work that we're doing will be positive, whereas the results of smoking weed or the results of scrolling on TikTok are negative. However, in the moment, it gives you pleasure. When you're wired for this, you only look at how do I feel in the moment. When you're wired for delayed gratification, you look at what is the result of what I'm doing. And so the way that we regulate dopamine is by only ever doing delayed gratification activities. We don't need instant gratification. It does not serve a real purpose, and its only purpose, the only thing it actually does, is kill our brains and make us stupider and make us less capable as human beings. And so the best thing that we can do is completely remove them from our lives. What purpose do you really have for smoking weed? What purpose do you really have for scrolling on TikTok, right? If you make the excuse that it's how I connect with my friends, that's bullshit, because you know that that's not real connection. And if you make the excuse that you learn a lot from TikTok, that's also bullshit, because you can learn just as much by applying that stuff in real life, right? Oh, I get a bunch of recipes on TikTok. Okay, yeah, but how many of them have you actually made? Right? You have all these recipes on TikTok and your favorited, whatever. How many of them have you actually gone and made? I doubt many of them. Right? I used to do this too. When I did go on TikTok, I was still into self-improvement back then. So I'd basically just have all self-improvement videos and then food. And then that was it. And I'd have recipes and self-improvement stuff. And so I had a section of my favorites that was just for recipes, right? I just had a shit ton of recipes. But guess what? I only made probably like 10 of those recipes out of like hundreds of videos that I'd saved. And so there's no purpose to these things. There's no point to these things. You don't need them. It's just that you are addicted to them. And so you break these addictions by now creating new and developing new habits, which is to exercise during that time, which is to work during that time. So the next thing is mental health. Mental health is really, really important when it comes to the state of your brain, the state of your thoughts, and your productivity. So mindset. Mindset is wildly important, all right? The mindsets that you have about life are going to determine everything. They're going to determine your experience as a whole, all right? You need to have a growth-oriented mindset. You need to have the belief that you can improve in any area of life. You can improve at anything if you put in the time and effort, right? So the belief that you can progress in any area, improve at anything, achieve anything by putting in and applying effort. That is a growth mindset. That is the belief system we want to have, right? Because if we have a growth mindset, everything is fixable, everything can be improved, everything can be changed. And so we just have to apply the right amount of effort in the right places in order to do that. When our mindset is that life is just against us, it's all fate, we don't have control of our destiny, then that mindset actually creates that reality for us. And so we no longer act in a way that may allow us to change that situation. Next thing is gratitude. We want to have gratitude, and we want to develop a mindset of gratitude. I swear to God, I am grateful for everything. I say I'm grateful all the time, all day long, all the time. One thing that I realize that I do that is somewhat unique, but some other people I've noticed do it once in a while, but very, very rarely, is I appreciate you. A lot of people say thank you. A lot of people say, yeah, thanks, all right, or I appreciate it. I always say, I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I say it all the time. I say it to everybody. I say it for the biggest things. I say it for the smallest things. And to me, it's just like, I appreciate this individual, and I'm letting them know because of this thing that they did for me. Instead of just being like, oh yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. It just goes a little bit deeper. And that's just one example of having a gratitude-based mindset. So whenever I'm going through a negative situation, I have gratitude for that negative situation, and I have gratitude for the awareness that I have as a means to overcome that situation. Because if I wasn't as aware as I am, I wouldn't be able to work through this problem as well. And so I have gratitude for that. I have gratitude for my knowledge, because without my knowledge, I would be seeing this problem as something that is stopping me from achieving my goals. And with that, I might end up giving up. But I'm grateful that I know that I can push through this. I'm grateful that I know that I can work through this. I'm grateful that I have the knowledge to do so. I'm grateful that I have the awareness and the strength to face this challenge instead of letting it stop me on my path. And also, anytime you're going out, I'm grateful to be, I'm going on a trip tomorrow. I'm leaving. I was going to say in a couple of weeks. I'm going tomorrow to Florida. So, that's just one example of I'm going on a trip tomorrow. So I'm grateful for that trip. I'm saying I'm grateful. I love that trip. I'm ecstatic. I'm happy. I'm joyful. Right? All of these things are the result of cultivating a gratitude-based mindset. Right? So how do we do this, right? How do we actually get to this state where you're just grateful for everything? And I'm not forcing this. I'm not lying to myself when I say I'm grateful for these things. It's genuinely how I feel. So how did I get to this point? I got to this point by gratitude journaling. Every single morning, I write an entire page in my journal. And for 2 of those lines of that entire page, I just do 2 quick gratitude notes. They can be as simple as you want them to be. They can be as in detail as you want them to be. It doesn't matter. What matters is the repetition of stating that you are grateful for X thing and explaining why you are grateful for that thing and what makes you grateful for that thing. And through this, you will condition and program your brain to look for things that are positive, to look for things to be grateful for instead of always looking for the negative. Next thing is mindfulness. You want to develop mindfulness because having mindfulness allows you to not get stuck and wrapped up in thoughts, which is part of why your mental health is so bad. You need to just be present. You need to be mindful. You need to be aware, right? And with mindfulness, you can actually pick up on each of the negative pieces, each of the subtle hints or redirections from your brain to go in a negative direction. And so because you're mindful, you're able to pick up on these way quicker and you're able to dissolve them way quicker. And this will allow you to just regulate the thoughts that you have and keep them focused on positivity, keep them focused on growth, keep them focused on moving in the direction you want to go. And the last thing is activity. Not a lot of people talk about this, but activity is one of the most important things for your mental health. You cannot be healthy mentally if you aren't active. You cannot be fully stable in the mind. You cannot have a fully, happy state of mind if you aren't active, if you aren't moving your body. And so any type of activity is good for this. Any type. So just move in the way that is specific to you. So if you're an athlete and you like to train really hard, do that. If you are a fat ass and you've been on the couch for 6 months and you need to just get up, right? Walk to your kitchen at the very least. If that wasn't too hard, walk a lap around your house. If that wasn't too hard, maybe walk a mile, right? Just walk. Walk is the simplest thing that I can tell you to do. Walk. If you are in between those 2 extremes, do anything in between, right? Literally anything that gets you moving will help with your mental health. And the reason I don't specify like weightlifting or hard training or anything is because when it comes to mental health, it doesn't matter the type of training. It just matters that you train. It just matters that you move your body. Movement of your body helps with blood flow and it helps with just regulating the nervous system and therefore it helps with your mental health as well. So learning and challenging yourself to grow. Learning is really, really important. And challenging yourself, specifically trying to push yourself towards growth, is wildly important as well. So, like I said before, you want to cultivate a growth mindset. You want to have a mindset that is focused on growth, that is focused on evolution, that is focused on reaching and achieving the next level. Because otherwise, you will just get stuck, you will get trapped every time you face a difficulty or every time you find a gap in your skills. Next thing is building new neural pathways. You want to be building new neural pathways because when you're building new neural pathways, the damaged ones in your brain can now be repaired or replaced. And that's key. If you are constantly developing new neural pathways, you can destroy the old ones, destroy the damaged ones, and start to heal and move in a positive direction, right? And the way we do this is things like lion's mane. Mushrooms are great. So mushrooms are good. We want to be hydrated. Hydration is very, very important. Diet in general is important. Just having a clean and healthy diet, not getting too much sugar. But also the best way to build neural pathways is to learn, right? And the best way to learn is with books and reading, right? Pick up books, start reading books, start learning from books. I personally just prefer self-improvement books. That's all I really read. But you can read whatever you want, frankly. You can learn from anything. But I would recommend specifically for this, I would recommend nonfiction or educational books. Just because you want to be learning if you're trying to develop new neural pathways and grow your brain. The content that you consume on a regular basis determines the thoughts that you have. It determines the neural pathways that you create and develop. It determines the behaviors that you follow and therefore repeat and therefore program into your brain. And so based on that, you can determine what your intelligence is going to look like. So for anybody who thinks that I'm intelligent to any degree, I would tell you that, well, I've been spending the last 4 years consuming educational self-improvement content. And that's why, right? I've been reading endless amounts of books. I've watched endless amounts of podcasts, courses, longer form content on YouTube, right? I've put in the time to learn all of these things because, well, not put in the time to learn, but because the content I chose to consume was based on these things, I've now learned a lot, right? And I've been able to get to a point where I have a lot of knowledge. But if I had spent that same amount of time consuming TikTok or consuming brain rot content, I'd be dumb as a rock. I'd be dumb as a rock and I'd be going nowhere in life. And that's just how it is. The content you consume will determine the thoughts that you have, and that will determine your trajectory. So that's all I have in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you did, go ahead and leave a like down below. If you learned something new, go ahead and comment what it is you learned, and press subscribe if you want to see more content like this. For those of you guys who are serious on your self-improvement and want to take it to the next level, go ahead and send me a DM on Instagram and I'll get you sorted through there. But if that's not you, I really do hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed this video, and that's all I got for you guys. Peace.